Welcome to Read Write Rodeo. My name is Morgan Brooks. This morning, I had it on my heart to share with you a book that absolutely changed my life when I first heard about it at a Paul Tierney breakaway roping clinic. This was the first self help book or motivational book I've ever even heard of. I read it each year before competition season kicks off because it really helps you get that extra edge and realize exactly what aspect of competing is mental. So all rights are reserved for Gary Mack with David Castevens, forward by Alex Rodriguez, and also the publishers McGraw Hill. I don't own any of these rights, but Mind Gym, An Athlete's Guide to Inner Excellence, is a great book that I think everyone should hear or read for themselves. So go ahead, grab yourself a cup of coffee, light yourself a candle, and we're going to read the first section. Forward. When I was 9 years old, growing up in Miami, I dreamed of being a Major League Baseball player someday. The dream was a little blurry back then, and it disappeared when I quit baseball and took up basketball. I wanted to become the next Magic Johnson or the next Larry Bird. Then one day, I was talking with my mother and my older brother, and I realized that there aren't too many Dominicans playing in the NBA. So after a 2 year layoff, I started playing baseball again, and that picture in my head, that dream, came back to me. That blurry image started taking focus. I think this is so powerful, this very first paragraph, because it shows the importance of representation in different sports based off ethnicities, background, what people look like. So, representation is huge, but also it shows you that even though he took a 2 year break, his dream came back to him. His vision, his purpose, his calling, whatever you want to call it, was so powerful that it never truly left him because as soon as he picked up his bat again, that dream reappeared. I can tell you I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't seen myself wearing a big league uniform long before it happened. I believe in the power of dreams. I also believe mental preparation goes hand in hand with setting goals and hard work. The way I use my mind is the biggest reason I've been able to enjoy success and play at a high level in a game where you have to prove yourself every day. In sports, as in life, talent will take you just so far. I try to attain goals mentally first. Let me give you an example. I don't want to sound cocky, but early in the 1996 season, I visualized winning the American League Most Valuable Player Award and holding it above my head. I visioned winning the batting title and holding up that trophy too. I visioned a .380 batting average. In my mind, I could see the number flashing and blinking on exit signs. 0.380, 0.380, 0.380. That year, I missed winning the MVP by 3 votes and won the batting title. Playing the game was the easy part. The real work was in the preparation. What I did in May paid off with rewards in November. Just as I believe in dreams, I believe in the power of positive reinforcement and visualization. Some nights when I go to bed, I will tell myself maybe 150 times, I hit the ball solid. I hit the ball solid. What do? I hit the ball solid. I see the results from my mind's eye out. I see myself from the fan's perspective. From the manager's view in the dugout, I picture myself on the field from different angles. I believe a champion wins in his mind first, then he plays the game, not the other way around. It's powerful stuff. My season is long, extending from spring training through 162 games and the playoffs. Every athlete in every sport experiences peaks and valleys. During tough times, I don't worry. I don't judge my performance by results. Most important is my physical and mental preparation. The question I ask when I look in the mirror is, am I ready to play? If the answer is yes, I feel confident. Once the ball is thrown or it's hit, the outcome is out of your control. I have known Gary Mack as a team counselor and as a friend since 1993 when I became a professional baseball player. Mind Gym takes you into the hearts and minds of many of the world's greatest athletes and coaches and illustrates the importance of the inner game. The lessons and mental skills you will learn by reading these pages are the same ones I use on a daily basis. Whether you're a big leaguer or a little leaguer, or in whatever game you play, Gary in this book can help take your game to the next level. Alex Rodriguez. I don't think it even matters if you play sports, if you're focused on your job, if you're working on your family, or maybe a hobby. I think this book can pertain to everybody. So, part one, welcome to the inner game. I absolutely love how this book is broken down into small sections, and each section starts out with a quote. And so here you have the top one, which is Yogi Berra. And this is where I absolutely fell in love with him. I never knew who he was before reading this book, but his wit just really resonates with me. Yogi was right. 90% of the game is half mental. Yogi Berra. You have to train your mind like you train your body. Bruce Jenner. When Yogi Berra became manager of the Yankees, a reporter asked if he had enough experience to handle the job. Sure, Berra said. I've been playing 18 years, and you can observe a lot just by watching. Closing his notebook, the writer walked away wearing the same look of faint bewilderment that the waitress had after she asked Yogi if he wanted his pizza cut into 4 slices or 8. Better make it 4, Yogi decided. I don't know if I can eat 8. In working with elite athletes and professional sports teams, I often begin my counseling sessions and presentations by quoting Yogi's wit and wisdom. A favorite line, one certain to get a laugh, is Yogi's mathematical observation that 90% of the game is half mental. But let me ask a question. Have you ever thought seriously about that famous yogiism? How much of the game, your game, is mental? Maybe I can lead you to an answer. Let's begin with an exercise I introduced to an international group of sports psychologists, Olympic and professional athletes, coaches, musicians, dancers, astronauts, doctors, lawyers, and fire chiefs in Ottawa, Canada. After completing this exercise and answering the questions, I think you will discover what the world's greatest athletes and the most successful people in other walks of life know to be true. That once you reach a certain level of competency, the mental skills become as important to performance as the physical skills, if not more so. I think that's huge. Whether you're a surgeon, a fire chief, an astronaut, a lot of your performance comes down to mental because you have the training, you have the education. Now it's a matter of being able to think things through and use your mental abilities to better advance your career. Now sit back, relax, begin to recall the sights and sounds and feelings of you performing at your very best. In your mind's eye, imagine your best day ever. Picture that time when you were at the top of your game, when every move and decision you made was the right one, when it seemed like every break went your way. Some athletes and performers describe their best day experience as playing in the zone. I call those sweet spots in time white moments, which we will explore later. Imagine you are watching your own highlights film. You feel no fear, no anxiety, and no self doubts. Everything is flowing and going your way. Look around. Where are you? What time of day is it? What time of year? What are you wearing? Who is with you? Who is watching? What do you hear? Breathe in the air. If you are on a playing field or a golf course, can you smell the grass? Visualize that pleasurable experience. Now let that image slowly fade, and in its place, recall your worst performance. Think of the game, event, or experience when you felt weak and ineffective, when nothing went your way, no matter how hard you tried. Now leave that memory behind. Fast forward to the present. With Yogi's quote in mind, compare yourself competing at your best and at your worst. Then honestly answer these questions. What percentage of the difference in those performances had to do with your physical skills? What percentage was mental? When working with a team of professional athletes, I have everyone in the clubhouse stand. I ask for the mental part of their performance was less than 10%. If so, I tell them to sit down. Those who think it was less than 20% are asked to take a seat. How about those of you, I ask, who think the mental game was less than 30%? Sit down. How about less than 40%? At 50%, at least half the room is still standing. Would you be standing too? If the answer is yes, this is my next question. If you believe the difference between your best and worst performance was, as Yogi said, at least 50% mental, then how much time do you spend on the mental game? How many books about sports psychology have you read? How many lessons have you taken from a head coach? As you demonstrated in the exercise, the mind is like a VCR. It records sights and sounds, and the tape plays continuously. The human body treats every vivid thought and image as if it is real and happening now. Everyone who has awakened from a nightmare knows this to be true. Studies have proven that mental training will not only enhance performance and improve productivity, but also add to your enjoyment. Whatever your age, whatever your game, you can learn how to use your mind more constructively. You can learn how to stay focused. You can learn to deal with adversity. Stay motivated during difficult times. Avoid fatal distractions. You can learn how to follow your dreams and live your life on purpose. Achieving inner excellence is a process. Building mental muscle, like building physical muscle, requires time and effort. The more you work on the inside, the more it will show on the outside. First, you must make a commitment. As Yogi supposedly said, when you come to the fork in the road, take it. By reading the first section, you are taking your first step. That's probably my favorite one, especially if you know Robert Frost, um, where the roads diverge in the woods, and I took the one less traveled. I think yogiism is very similar to that, saying if you get to a fork, you have to make a decision. Indecisiveness is the worst thing. Think of the book in your hands as your mind gym. Read the lessons, do the exercises, and answer the questions. If you do, you will acquire the skills needed to create the ideal mental state that will allow you to rise to the next level and perform at your best by choice rather than chance. What you think affects how you feel and perform. Training your brain is as important as training your body. Mind games. The mind messes up more shots than the body. Tommy Bolt. The mind is a powerful thing, and most people don't use it properly. Mark McGuire. Gene Stallings stood on the practice field, arms folded across his chest. The Arizona Cardinals were at summer training camp in Flagstaff, and every player could feel the stoic presence of the team's tall, tough-minded head coach. Stallings is a protege of the late Paul Bear Bryant. He played for Bryant at Texas A&M and served 7 seasons as an assistant to the coaching legend at Alabama. Like Bryant, Stallings valued practice time. He placed a premium on mental toughness and the work habits of his players. Now here he stood, casting a long shadow, his steely gaze fixed on a place kicker as he swung his right foot, soccer style, into and through the ball. When the field goal attempt sailed widely wide of the mark, the kicker shanked the ball. Stallings' face hardened like ready mixed cement. In disgust, he turned his back and walked away, muttering under his breath. Once Gene was out of earshot, I drew the kicker aside. "What happened?" I asked. This was my first season as team counselor for the NFL club. "Mac, I'm a great field goal kicker," the player said with conviction. Then he thought of his coach and his glacial stare. He shook his head. "But I just can't kick when Gene's watching me." "Well, I said, gently unable to suppress a smile, "I think he's going to be at all the games." The kicker had plenty of leg, and distance was no problem, but he had allowed himself to become self-conscious and coach conscious rather than task conscious. His mind was on his boss. If the player expected better results, he had to change his thought patterns. He needed to work on the mental part of his game. One key to achieving success in sports is learning how to focus on the task and not let negative thoughts intrude. The mind can concentrate on only one thing at a time. So rather than suppress what you don't want to happen, you must focus on what you do want to happen or on some neutral thought. In working with place kickers, I use a distraction technique. I ask them to create a word that, when said to themselves, will block out all negative thoughts and help relieve tension. This is powerful because that's one of the things in barrel racing when people think just don't hit a barrel, just don't hit a barrel. What do you think happens? They usually hit the barrel. So rather than thinking that, get past it, get past the barrel, or look at your spot, look at your spot, those are better repetitions to say because they're more apt to help you not tip than saying don't tip. Al Del Gracio, a veteran kicker for the Tennessee Titans who played in the Super Bowl, has his own word, birdie. Al is a scratch golfer, perhaps the best golfer in the National Football League. For him, birdie creates the feeling of success and reminds him of the fun he has on the golf course. The brain is like a mega computer that controls the body. Herbert Benson, a Harvard cardiologist, found that having patients focus on their breathing and repeating the word one lowers their blood pressure and heart rate. Try it yourself. So, no matter what you're doing, whether it's heart health or playing a sport, having a neutral word can also be beneficial. The brain can do remarkable things, but unlike a computer, it doesn't come with an instruction manual. Unfortunately, too often we pull up the wrong programs at the wrong times. This section begins with a profound quote from Tommy Bolt, the former professional golfer. Terrible Tommy, he was called. Thunderbolt. The joke was that Bolt was bilingual, fluid in English and profanity. His temper and club throwing tantrums are part of golf's rich lore. According to legend, after lipping out 6 putts in a row during one tournament round, Bolt shook his fist at the heavens and shouted, "Why don't you come down and fight like a man?" But Bolt understood the power of the mind and how the brain can sabotage performance. When a weekend golfer arrives at a water hole, what is the second thing he does after fishing an old ball, a water ball, out of his bag? Stepping to the tee, he tells himself, "Don't hit it in the water." What we've learned in psychology is that actions follow our thoughts and images. If you say, "Don't hit it in the water," and you're looking at the water, you've just programmed your mind to send the ball to a watery grave. The law of dominant thought says your mind is going to remember the most dominant thought. Think water, remember water, and water likely is what you will get. Rather than say, "Don't hit it in the water," try another instruction, like land the ball 10 yards to the right of the pin. You get what your mind sets. The mind works most effectively when you're telling it what to do rather than what not to do. When I was with the Chicago Cubs, a starting pitcher telephoned me from Montreal. He had been rocked in his last outing. In an almost pleading voice, he said he needed help. When I asked him to relate the conversation he had with himself when he was alone on the mound struggling to find the plate, he ticked off a laundry list of negative thoughts. "Don't hang your curve. Don't walk this guy. The ump won't give me a call. If I don't get through the 5th inning, I'm going to lose my spot in the rotation." I give athletes I work with a 3x5 card. On one side, I have them list their personal keys to success. On the other, their performance keys to success. I asked the Cubs pitcher to tell me his performance keys to success. "What are you doing when you're really on your game?" "I'm locating my fastball," he replied. "I'm throwing first pitch strikes. I'm changing speed." "So how do you do those things?" I asked. "Good balance," he said. "Shoulder back, drive through." "Good," I told him. "In 5 days, you start against the Mets in New York. All I want you to do before the game is to focus on those 3 things." In his next appearance, the pitcher threw a complete game shutout. In less than a week, he couldn't have changed that much physically. His turnaround is proof that by changing your thinking, and you can choose how you think, you can change your performance. Put another way, if you don't like the program you are watching, switch the channel. Learn to use your mind, or your mind will use you. Actions follow our thoughts and images. Don't look where you don't want to go. So that's where I'm going to end for today. That's page 12 if you're following along. I want to talk briefly about my horses because this is where I like to document how they're coming along. I was able to lope them outside. They're starting to do good. I'm going to haul them to their first time being off the place this weekend, and I'm really hoping that goes well. I think my mom's going to come with just in case things go south. But yeah, So that's the update on the Colts. Reminder they're only 4, so I don't have much expectations for them this year. But thank you so much for listening to the beginning of Mind Gym, an athlete's guide to inner excellence. Again, all rights reserved to Gary Mack with David Cass Stevens, forward by Alex Rodriguez, and the publishers McGraw Hill. If you want to follow along with this book, you can order it off of Amazon. It's just a great read and such well written to help you through the performance, whether it be with sports or a new career, or even if you're struggling with school. This shows you exactly the techniques to use to help you expect better results. So remember to read the Bible, write your truth, rodeo for Jesus. God bless.